All right, I'm down here in Ketchum, Idaho at the global headquarters of First Lite. It's on their door, global headquarters. There's been so many questions on Rokslide about the First Lite 2019 edition. And we have Kenton, Caruth, and Ben, I forgot your last name.
Flandro.
I wouldn't pronounce that right.
That's
anyways.
All right. Yeah, no worries.
They're going to go through all the questions you guys had. They're going to introduce and talk about each product. And then if you guys have a question there on Instagram, let us know and we'll ask them. Guys, have it.
All right, first thing we're going to start with, first of all, thanks for paying attention to us. We're going to start with our Guide Lite. The goal behind the Guide Lite pant for us was to build the absolute lightest pant we could build that could take a ton of abuse, would work well walking through brush, so the brush wouldn't really, it doesn't go right through and poke you, but basically dries super fast and enable you to be as comfortable as possible in super hot, like early antelope when it's 90 degrees to relatively later high active hunts. This material basically is a two-way stretch. It's a 145 weight versus the regular corrugate, which is about a 225. So it's approximately 30-35% lighter than the corrugate. Still super stretchy. Some of the interesting features with these are we have side pant pockets that go through to like super duper breathable see-through venting. So if you have to, if you get hot and you want to get a little more, venting, you can unzip these, which basically let all the hot air out. The goal behind these, though, generally speaking, was to make them stand alone. Like, we didn't want them to have to require vents or other stuff. They're made out of a nylon, which breathes super, super well. So basically the goal is to have a pair of pants that the entire pant breathes well.
Yeah, I think to Kenton's point, what's really cool about this, the main driving feature of this pant is the material itself. It's a two-way stretch nylon, but that nylon isn't just the dumb nylon fiber, it's actually 37.5 nylon. So we have all of the carbon molecules embedded into that 37.5 nylon, so not only do you get the stretch and the durability of nylon, you get temperature regulation, quick dry times, like amazing breathability in a lightweight, durable pant. So where I think other pants may require hip vents or other features to help regulate body temperature, this fabric, from the top to the bottom, all the way throughout, is actually working to keep the fabric dry, move moisture away from you, keep it super breathable, to help regulate your body temperature, like in the seasons and the hunt types that Kenton's talking about. So that's really like the main driving feature that got us really excited about this, was having that newly engineered fabric that could really do more than just a lightweight nylon normally could.
Super packable, and yeah, like I said, good to go, and as hot as the temperatures, you're gonna feel comfortable wearing pants.
Yeah.
What colors are they coming in?
It'll come in all of our patterns and colors. So we'll have, well, not all the solids. We have dry earth and conifer, and then we'll have the fusion and cipher. So you'll have a good assortment there where, rifle hunting and whatnot, excellent, solid color options that you can also feel super comfortable wearing around when you're not hunting. And then obviously, full-on dialed fusion and cipher for in the field, archery, rifle, whatever. So that's the color range. In addition to that, one of the other new points that's really important to note on this and the next pant that we'll talk about is these use a rigid waistband. So where our Obsidian and our corrugate guide pant have an elastic waistband with sizes small through 2X, these will actually have 5 more sizes in the same format that you would buy your Levi's jeans in. So 30-30 all the way up to, I think, 44-33.
With talls in.
Yeah, so talls mixed in there in kind of the middle of the line. So you'll be able to really tailor this and the other pant to similar sizing as what you would buy for your casual pants by waist and inseam.
Right.
So on the 3 pants you have now for basically hunting, you have 4, but the guides, the Obsidians, and the Guide Lites, can you kind of say what the breakdown would be, why you'd wear the Guide Lites over the other 2?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the Guide Lite, as we said, is for either super active or hot or both. The corrugates were designed for kind of early to mid-season. The corrugates are designed to be super durable and quiet, but the but they were at the 225 gram spot when the guys were hunting, in Arizona or hotter places, or even, around here certainly for antelope, and the, August seasons, they were complaining that they were too hot, and it was probably accurate. So we decided to build, basically a version of that's super duper breathable and something comfortable to wear in the heat. So that, you start here for the hottest, you move to the corrugate, and then let's talk
So the
about
obsidian.
the
So then
obsidian.
where's the
Yeah.
obsidian fit in? Would probably be the next. part of
Right,
that.
the obsidian and the corrugate actually overlap about 90%. The idea with the obsidian is that, and from the onset, we wanted to create a pant that was totally silent. That, prior to that, if a guy wanted super quiet pants, he had to go to like a fleece pant or something, and the fleece pants have a lot of drawbacks. One, they're hot. Two, they collect burrs like that. They're designed to collect burrs. So we wanted to create a pant that could, that was, totally silent and would work in a large variety of temperatures. What we found was that certain people that hunted in especially nasty spots were beating up the obsidian. That being said, our obsidian is still our best-selling piece, and most people certainly that hunt in the Rockies and environments that don't have nearly as much kind of prickly, stabby things have been fine with them. But then we kind of came up with the corrugates for, more durability. Certainly, if a guy's not bow hunting and doesn't need, maximum quietness, we introduced the corrugates, so they can deal with a lot of, they're way more durable, and they're a little more flexible. So that was kind of the goal, to build something that was, that you could use in a nastier environment.
Yeah, it's really kind of reorganizing the priority of the performance set. So with the corrugate guide pant, obviously, the durability, brush busting, just kind of bomb-proof, pushing through brush, really took precedent over almost everything else. It needed to be flexible and durable. And then when you have the obsidian or even the guide light now, which I think is an advancement of all of this, those have bumped up the performance of the breathability, moisture management, just overall temperature control, where in a traditional pant you might have this much of the season where you can wear a specific pant, but by having either the merino wool or the 37.5 nylon, you can broaden the temperature range and kind of weather condition range that this pant can operate in. So, I'd say those are kind of the high level differences between the three pants we've talked about so far.
And I think that's kind of a good segue into our other new pair of pants this year, which will...
Did you mention the price on that first?
That'll be $135 in solids and $145 in patterns.
And when can they be ordered?
We will have these available in just about a month, so we'll probably have inventory of those sometime in late April.
Okay.
Fabulous.
Cool.
And that's obviously coming in earlier than all of our other styles because that is our hot weather pant, so that one will be available this spring, and the rest of the stuff, all these new styles, the rest of our inventory is really coming on to full availability into June.
When are they sold in Canada, the guide lights?
I think that's...
Yeah, they should be. We're definitely actively working on getting our whole Canadian distribution way more streamlined than it has been.
Okay.
That's a pretty big project, and it's happening now.
Perfect.
So then the next pant we have, Kenton can talk a little bit about our new men's sawbuck pant.
The sawbuck is essentially a corrugate with a super durable face fabric. It's probably better illustrated with this color. Yeah.
So basically what we wanted to do here was take the corrugate guide pant and turn it into a really durable brush busting kind of functionality. So you have double panel 100% nylon chap down through the whole front. You'll see the triple needle stitching reinforced through all the critical seams. There's also, we use this same 100% nylon reinforced chap in a knife wedge here in the hand pocket and up through the rigid waistband. And then on the back side down here, we also reinforce the lower leg, so that entire bottom of the leg is all reinforced when you're pushing through whatever, scrub brush. And then what makes this exceptional is that, this is your kind of Carhartt super reinforced bomb-proof brush busting, but we use the corrugate guide fabric everywhere else to make sure that the thing moves and stretches and feels and fits like the corrugated guide pant, like an alpine mountaineering pant. Like you get great range of motion, but you still have all this insane durability built into those critical areas.
And breathability, so you retain all the breathability of the corrugate. But it was just, as we said, we have got big guys in Texas and Arizona and Alaska where they have got, there's no choice, you're going through nasty, sticky, prickly stuff. That and then, for the bird hunter guys, like we have a huge amount of, which the whole office basically does, but we wanted to be able to, build a pant that would work well for that too.
Yeah, and so this thing got put through the ringer. I mean, I should say that this 100% nylon, when you're talking the science nerd stuff, this, stands up to roughly 80,000 revolutions for abrasion testing, which is obviously very, very good, but how does that equate to real in-the-field use? And all of us this last fall were just like getting after it in the upland season, chucker and everything else, and these things were definitely a pleasant surprise. Everybody was really stoked on how durable these things were, and we go out there in the season prior to be like, all right, let's go break it. Let's see like what it can actually stand up to, and everybody came back with having like kind of put it through unordinary use just to see, and it held up really, really well. So that's when you start to kind of that's when I start to compare the 80,000 revolutions to what that actually means in the field.
The goal with this too, it's not only just to make it so it doesn't rip, it's to be durable enough to where stuff doesn't poke you.
Yeah.
Right, like it'd be one thing to come up with a material that was, could withstand anything, but if it still hurt walking through stuff, it's not really doing its job. So the goal was kind of to make them as thin as we could, yet still be able to walk through kind of pokey stuff without having stuff really affect you too much.
Yeah, not feel like you're walking around in cardboard, but also have something that's gonna be durable enough to keep that stuff from poking you or tearing.
Exactly.
Some of the other features on here, other than like the triple needle stitching and the reinforced chap, the whole thing has a DWR treatment on it, so it has good shedding properties for any, pushing through wet brush or light moisture. Has the knife wedge, as I mentioned, in both of the hand pockets. It has belt and suspender compatible loops here. So this is a new design that won't stick above the waistband, so this is fully hidden if you're wearing a belt, and then you just pass it through this top section, distributes the weight correctly to pull without like crinkling up the pant if you do put suspenders on.
Mesh pockets.
The mesh pocketing here for a little breathability so it doesn't feel too heavy when you're wearing it, and then just drop in back, denim style jean pockets on the back, but the stretch nylon through basically this whole seat so you get really good range of motion.
And the price point for those were?
The price on those will be $150, $160. So $150 solids and $160 for the patterns, and the same color and pattern range as the Guide Lite: Dry Earth, Conifer, Fusion, Cypher.
Are they going to be out early, or the same with the?
These will be on the June availability.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys want to move to the?
You want to move on to the other kits?
Yep. Yeah, let's stay Western. Let's go
Okay.
to this one. We'll go before we go into the.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
The prize of the ball.
All right. So this is our technically our third down piece. The goal behind this was to have a ultra lightweight, I wouldn't say ultra lightweight, as light as we could possibly make a layer that you could actually hunt in. It's got 100 grams of down in it. So basically that's roughly 3.5 ounces of our 800 fill power 37.5 blend, which is about an 80-20. Is that what we had? About an 80-20, about 80%
Down,
800
20%.
fill power down, 20% synthetic.
Yeah, and what's really important to note about that is, I guess to kind of back up to the top level, there's fill power, and then there's the amount of down that you use. So fill power is actually the size of the down clusters, and that's where you get that 600, 650, 800, 850 type of rating, and that's really just the fluffiness of those down clusters. So then, that's kind of how they measure the power of the insulating power for those down clusters. But if you only put 2 of them in the jacket, then you don't get insulation. So that's where the amount of that 800 fill power comes into play. So with this one, we use, like Kenton was saying, 100 grams or roughly 3.5 ounces of that 800 fill power 37.5 down tech. And to what Kenton was saying earlier, like we wanted to make this as lightweight as possible while making sure we kept in mind that this is an insulating piece. So if you're taking this thing out in the field and you're like, sweet, it only weighs an ounce, I'm not warm. Like you've kind of defeated the purpose of bringing like this. If this is your insulation, you want to make sure it keeps you warm. So we were really kind of surfing that wave of like, how do we make it as light as possible where you can still feel super confident taking it into the field and being like, nice, like I'm warm enough. This is critical.
And to
So,
that,
yeah, go ahead.
thing, but you know what people notice is we use a 30D face fabric on this. But I mean, anybody could use a 10D and we could have lowered the weight significantly. The problem with it, say a 10D or a 15D, is that it literally, no matter what you make it out of, if you have to go through brush, it's gonna tear.
And just in general use, you're gonna lose feathers 15D or less.
Right, and so for us,
That's tough.
it was like 30D was this sweet spot where it's still ultralight, and the guys that want to wear it underneath that say, oh yeah, I'm never gonna wear it on the outside. Well, I mean, we kind of were thinking about that, and we're like, you know what, it always ends up on the outside at one layer.
Yeah.
Like, it's not ideal, but it does. So we tried to kind of figure out 40 was a little thick, but at 20 you can rip stuff quite easily. So we wanted to keep it right. It seemed like 30 was kind of the sweet spot to where, like I said, if you ended up having to hunt and having to actually go through some brush and stuff, trust me, it's not going to be your brush busting piece, but it'll hold up way better than a 15, way better than a 20. You know, 30 for us, 30D seemed to be kind of that sweet spot.
Yeah. And then jumping back, if I could, to the down, one of the other important things to note there is it's our 37.5 blended down, so that's the 80-20 where you have down clusters at 80%, 37.5 polyester fill kind of blended in there with it. That helps to kind of keep the structure of the down fluffed up. It also helps move that moisture away from your body and out of the down chambers. So it helps regulate your body temperature and helps also keep you and the down chambers drier. The other advancement that we've also worked into with 37.5 is turning this into down tech. So now not only do you have the down plus the 37.5 fibers, that down cluster is also DWR treated. So you have a DWR treated 37.5 blended down technology, which is, we're definitely the first ones to use it in really any apparel application, and very excited to see how it performed. Like it was the temperature regulating properties of it are pretty exceptional.
Yeah, it works as far as breathability goes, and as far as like moving moisture away from your body. It's a significant jump from pure down, which is really cool.
I think what that, in my mind, what that translates to is, I think most people wear down jackets and they're like, I'll wear it until I get super hot and then I'll take it off. And like the thing's just going to keep ramping me up and getting me hotter and hotter and hotter. This actually like helps you stay in that comfort zone where I've been wearing this thing throughout the whole winter here in Idaho, where it's been bitter cold and been shockingly comfortable. But then also like early in the fall when we had the samples to test, I was shocked that I could wear it and not just like immediately be sweating, and I run hot. So it's a pretty interesting technology and a kind of a different approach to down jackets, where normally you'd think like, oh, I only wear it when it's cold and it's always going to just keep heating me up until I'm too hot. This actually finds a way to keep you in that comfort zone, which is pretty cool.
So it has somewhat of an active insulation.
Yeah.
Very active.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean that's the whole premise for sure of that 37.5.
Another interesting
There's a question, the warmth compared to the Uncompadre.
The Uncompadre is warmer for sure, I would say. This definitely...
So I'd say like in the bracketing, you've got like the
Yeah.
Brooks being the most lightweight, compressible, best warmth to weight for cool weather. The Sanctuary is approaching, it's basically in between the Chamberlain and the Brooks, where you're going to get like great insulation for really the meat of the season with the Uncompadre, and then you get into the Chamberlain when it's just bitter cold, like gnarly, snowy, late season.
You're also talking almost double the weight.
Precisely. The
Yeah.
Chamberlain for large, the Uncompadre for large is about 19 ounces, and this is about 10.9 ounces.
Yeah.
Another, speaking of weight, so I mean, it's a funny thing, because like I said, we could make a jacket like this that weighed probably 6 ounces all day long, but it's gonna, it's gonna blow up if you even look at it.
Or it's not going to keep you warm.
Or it's not going to keep you warm. Another thing about the 30D face fabric is that it's a lot better at cutting the wind. 30D with DWR. So, it's...
Yeah, just by nature of having down-proof fabrics that keep the down in the jacket, it has to be super tightly woven. And so by nature, not only is it keeping the down from coming out, it's also cutting the wind significantly more than a woven fabric that would be looser normally.
Yeah.
So it's really good at cutting the wind, and then you have the insulation of the down.
Robbie Denning said it's not your grandma's down sweater.
Is Robbie wearing his grandma's down sweaters? Robbie, give your grandma back her sweaters.
So some of the other features on this jacket, to keep this super lightweight, we've modified the 3D turret hood. So instead of having some weight adding double pulls on the side here to bring the hood down, and then the center pull in the back, we have the center pull only, but the way it's routed through this hood, it'll bring it down and bring it in when you tighten it down. So really super functional without adding a lot of extra weight. One of the other really cool features on this that's kind of hard to see without wearing it, but we have a single panel down through the side for a really innovative, lightweight reach-up arm design. So with this type of a construction, you can get up into a full draw or be hanging things without your jacket riding up and dumping heat out the bottom of the jacket. So it's got a really cool engineered fit there.
Can you guys speak to your hoods a little bit? I think you guys nail your hoods and how you guys do that.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's a big, the bend, basically bend of the turret hood, but the idea with the hood was that we call it the turret hood. Unlike a lot of, say, ski brand stuff that make a hood for a helmet or something, we wanted a hood that fits very closely to your head, but still gives you good peripheral, but also enables you to turn either way and not have the hood come in front of your eyes, basically.
Yeah.
Amongst other things, we have a couple variations of the turret hood, but essentially it was a hood that was like specifically designed for hunting.
Yeah.
You can shoot a bow with most of our turret hoods, which is cool. So, like I said, the peripheral's always going to be good. A lot of times we'll engineer the turret hood so there's less fill next to the ears, so you can hear better. I don't know what else.
Yeah, I mean the turret hood that some of the functionality that really handles that field of view management is basically there's a crown anchor that basically attaches it to your head, and back to what Kenton was talking about, a lot of ski companies are building it to go over ski helmets. We're building it to go over the things you wear hunting. So unless you're wearing a hunting helmet, you want it to fit over a beanie or a hat, whatever, and that's kind of the max. So this thing locks down around the crown of your head, and then you have another draw cord that basically locks this in to get it out and around so that you have good peripheral and the thing moves with you. And then the other thing, to Kenton's point, is there's always that fine balance of getting insulation where you can get your face down in here, but also get your face out to set your anchor point. And so you don't want to get short sheeted where you're like, I can't get warm. And then, the opposite being like, I have to take this whole thing off if I'm going to be shooting. So, it was something that we've been working on pretty intensively for the last 4 years to dial it in kind of all these different formats, where the sawtooth would just be basically an ergonomic format of that with no draw cords, the Uncapagre or the Chamberlain with the double draw cords like we have in the Vapor and the Seek, and then this new lightweight design that's a single cord pull where all of it is locking it to your head so that it can move and keep everything out of your way when you're moving your head.
Price point?
On the Brooks is $265, $285.
That's a good niche price.
Yeah, for a super high-end down piece, we feel like we're very competitive.
And then in terms of the pocketing on this, because I think that's another question, we have the lightweight hand pockets here, and then inside a drop pocket down inside each side for just quick stashing, which I found has been actually surprisingly helpful to have that. Doesn't add any weight. The hand pockets are already there, but you get some added functionality without any added weight. So
it'll fit an Algene bottle.
if you really work at it.
I put it in mine the other day.
Yeah. Or you can, what I always do, and actually what the Hushing guys said they always do as well, is just rolling this or even the Chamberlain up into the hood, and you can just anchor that turret hood down. You've got a camp pillow. So that's a pretty good way to kind of like keep it loosely stashed, which I've also found is pretty helpful. If it's not rock hard packed down to just a stone, if you have it a little looser packed, you can kind of stuff it into all those nooks and crannies in your pack and kind of make it work. So.
Good question. Is it just the brown?
Nope. Good color range there. We'll actually have black conifer, dry earth, fusion, and cypher. So good wide range for this one.
All right.
Good on that one?
Moving on, I guess.
All right. So this is our new mid-season whitetail kit. Basically what we did was kind of building on the success of the Catalyst. We've got our Catalyst face fabric is super quiet. It was a kind of a soft shell, but once we removed the laminate, it did a lot of things. It got a lot lighter, it got a lot more breathable while still cutting the wind super well, but most importantly for the whitetail guy, it got silent once we took out the laminate. So basically so when we added that material to the outside of this, we get a silent piece that's quite durable, but it's also got a 100 fill in the body, 60 fill in the arms, so it's super, I would say it's not meant to be super warm, but it's, you know, solid to up in a tree down to probably 40 degrees.
Yeah, so I think the natural questions are, is this the replacement of the Woodbury? Yes.
Yeah.
Why did we want to replace the Woodbury? Because when we actually finished design on the Woodbury, we realized it had gotten a little too close for comfort to the Sanctuary, and we wanted to make sure that we were addressing, you know, the heart of the season from the end of kind of the early warm season all the way through until it was like bitter cold and you had to move to the Sanctuary. So that's why we did it, and the way I've been describing this thing all along is it's basically the Catalyst on steroids. You know, you have this crazy 2-layer soft shell Catalyst package on the outside with insulation and lining behind it, so then you have basically added warmth for, like I said, kind of that middle of the season. What's really truly revolutionary about this thing, and what makes it different from everything else on the market, is our new kit link functionality. So, and this also helps kind of bridge, you know, a broad range of the season, because you can wear just the pant kind of, you know, end of the early season through the mid until you get cold enough to add the jacket. But if you've got the bib, you've got the kangaroo pocket in the front center where you keep all your gear, you know, stash whatever you need here, and you have full integration through our kit link in the sides. If you'll hold,
Yeah.
let's see how we want to do that. So then with that, you can pass through the jacket to the center muff of the bib. And so if you're, you know, the way we've been building this through the use case is you would start with the bib and you'd be wearing, you know, a sawtooth or a furnace or a kiln or whatever as your base layer, or a Klamath. And then once it finally gets cold enough, you can just add the jacket on over, and you've still got all of your, you know, your gear right here, and you can just reach through to that thing. So you never have to be like, oh God, what pocket did I put that in? Like, this is my toolbox. I can keep my hands warm in here. I just add the jacket on and like seamless, like just moving straight to it.
Stays warm, super accessible, and it keeps your hands warm, because a lot of times, you know, guys, certainly like in this mid-season, prefer to hunt without gloves on, just so they're ready to shoot at any time.
Yeah.
And yeah, what this allows you to stick your hands in, keep your hands warm, either with no gloves or super light gloves, but then you're ready to go.
Yeah.
Why would you buy this over the
Sanctuary?
Sanctuary, or vice versa?
Okay, the Sanctuary is designed for a whole different, far colder. The Sanctuary is our, like, it's warm. It's the warmest thing we made. So this has got 100 fill in the body. The Sanctuary has 2 layers of 100 fill,
Yeah.
with a baffle, a screen between them in order to add even more kind of puff. So
And more wind resistance.
And more wind resistance. Yeah. So the Sanctuary is
It's more or less like double the insulation
Yeah.
value.
double
To where
plus.
that thing can be, you know, down into just snowy late season, bitter cold, wind cutting when it's critical at those low temperatures. This piece maintains better breathability, so you'll still have a lot of that insulation, not only with the fleece backing of this, you know, Catalyst outer fabric, but then the insulation behind that. So you'll have some breathability, but it'll definitely keep you warm through that target temperature range and time format of the season. So
Is any one better with wind or no?
I think they're both as good as we can make them, pretty much. I mean,
yeah, I would say, you know, the Sanctuary has, you know, a layer embedded in between those double layers of insulation that's intended to be specifically wind cutting. This one has wind cutting in that this outer fabric being bonded to the fleece behind it in that soft shell format. that bonding, basically the adhesive that glues those two things together, creates a wind blocking layer. I wouldn't say it's to the same level as the Sanctuary, but we also didn't want it to be, because at this temperature range, if you maintain that breathability, that's where you get air circulation that allows all that moisture to come out. Whereas in the Sanctuary, you're not generating moisture. You're just trying to stay warm. It's cold, it's dry,
Right.
and you're just trying to stay warm. So this one, we actually wanted to have a little bit more breathability, and with this one, you have the 37.5 in that Catalyst outer soft shell fabric, and then the 37.5 in the insulation, and so that works with that breathability to keep you comfortable.
Is one quieter than the other?
I don't think so. I think they're both. I mean, we'd have to get out the decibel meter and measure them again, but both of them are just amazing.
It's their number. Both pieces. That is the number one. That is our number one thing.
Driver. Yeah.
Yeah, driver is that above everything else. It needs to be quiet, and both are super duper quiet. And we test them in freezing cold weather. I mean, you name it, and just to make sure that they don't get crinkly or loud. But they're both basically silent.
And this one, that's kind of the big change that we realized in developing this fabric, was by not putting the membrane in there in between the outer fabric and the fleece, it maintains its flexibility down to those lower temperatures, so it doesn't get crinkly like some other 3-layer soft shells would. So that's what helps keep that really quiet in those colder temperatures.
Yeah, they're both extraordinarily quiet.
Mm-hmm.
Having both Fusion and Cypher, obviously.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
The other advantage there is, back to Kenton's point, like if you went down to like a brushed fleece, which is kind of what a lot of other companies are doing at this temperature range and kind of use case for whitetail, a lot of that is kind of snag prone or just like burr Velcro. This flat face fabric being laminated into that 2-layer soft shell keeps that outer fabric very flat and resistant to snags and burrs and all that
bark.
stuff.
It won't grab the bark,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as you stand up, so
It's much more likely to kind of brush past that stuff as opposed to like collecting everything you walk through.
Exactly. Not only is it quiet against itself, but it's quiet in its environment.
The price point on the two pieces?
$280 for the jacket and $270 for the pant.
And those are June timeframe?
Yes. Yep.
All right. I don't know if this is just on these or pants in general. Any knee pads planned for the pants?
No,
Not at this point.
It's funny. We go back and forth, and trust me, we've tested all of the pants, but we are looking at making knee pads, hunting-specific knee pads, because after kind of addressing a bunch of different knee pads, you come to the conclusion that most knee pads are made for, hitting something or protecting against an impact, where hunting knee pads are quite a bit different in the sense that they're made for crawling, trying to keep cactus out, and being quiet. So I think that we internally think that there's some room for improvement there, but the knee pad thing is so tricky because when you've got them in, it's weird kind of to walk in them. If they're underneath layers, then the outer layer of the pant gets destroyed. So I don't know, I think, and everything's subject to change, but as we try, and we try everything, and I think that where we're going to end up is creating our own hunting specific knee pads that go over for, certainly like for antelope, for us, or, that's like to crawl central, you crawl more than you can walk, so we try out whether you go to the hardware store and try out leather, like carpet guide knee pads, or you try out, Arc'teryx. I think look for something coming out, but it's in the works.
And the $1 million question. Why don't you have vents in your pants, and will you have vents in your pants?
Well, with the guide lights, the goal was to make them as light as we could and breathable as we can, and the functionality of kind of the pockets. So inside it is a super fine mesh, so it breathes super well. So literally, if you unzip the pockets on the guide lights, it's essentially like having a mesh backed vent.
Yeah, without actually adding the weight and complexity of adding like a single-use vent, essentially. Mm-hmm. And really, I think even more than that, especially on that pant, the fabric was designed to be the vent, essentially. So with that 37.5 fiber embedded into the nylon, the whole pant is designed to, regulate your body temperature, remove moisture, keep you cool in those hotter temperatures. So at that light weight of fabric, I think with that 37.5 engineered in there, that was really how we chose to tackle the kind of the venting and temperature control requirements for that pant.
It's a nylon pant, which people I think don't really pay attention to. I mean, nylon is a far better material than poly for a technical pant. I mean, if you're going to make a pant with a laminate, you got to use poly. But if you look at any high-end mountaineering pant that's non-laminate, that doesn't have a laminate, they're all nylon. The thing about nylon is nylon's quite a bit stronger than poly, allowing you to build a pant that has less tight of a weave while attaining more durability. So I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised with the breathability of those pants.
So in the future, will there be vents in a pant?
In the corrugates, perhaps. We discuss it a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely in every one of our design meetings. It's definitely on the list. So I would say we haven't made any changes, but they are definitely, honestly, they're heard. I would say that like everybody's comments, we're paying close attention to like what we see on our site, what we see on Rokslide, what we see everywhere else, where it's like, okay, like people are calling for things and we're listening. So we're definitely discussing that and trying to figure out really where it makes sense, to be honest. Like, is it in the lightweight pants? Maybe not. Is it in heavier weight pants? Probably starts to make sense. So where's that sweet spot and when do we implement it? That part I don't know yet, but we're definitely listening closely to that.
The downsides to vents are weight, complexity, and
failure.
So, I mean, just so everybody knows, I'd say all the top companies all use super high-end zippers, YKKs, whatever, the best zippers that you can get. But even with the best zippers money can buy, zippers are unequivocally the biggest headache for a clothing designer, right? Every inch of zipper creates an inch of potential problem. So you're constantly trying to figure out ways like, how can I, mitigate zipper problems? And so for us, we are always kind of reluctant to add weight and complexity, remove packability. Like, there's some definite downsides to it. So I don't know, we're just trying to kind of, it's not like something like, oh gosh, we're never going to use zippers. We definitely side vents, but there are some downsides I think that people might not realize.
And then you guys are already working on the Avery specials, the waterproof below the knee warmer pants.
I bet we're going to make them giant.
I have them on camera right now. Look at them, guys. They're definitely shaking their head yes. Another guy, missing a full zipper merino jacket. Is there one coming back?
Oh, as in like the Labrador was?
Yeah.
Honestly, that's where we felt the Sawtooth was a better solution for that temperature range and kind of use case scenario. So that is really our full zip merino solution that we thought provided like overall significantly better functionality than the Labrador. Where the Labrador was, a 400 weight interlock merino that had a lot of physical weight, but not necessarily a lot of loft or insulation value. So it wasn't doing all the things we wanted it to do well. It wasn't excelling at those. So we actually, with the Sawtooth, went to 50-gram lighter fabric for the merino that has more loft, so it's more like a kind of a sweatshirt loft that can give you warmth by just creating that dead air space between your body and the garment. And then we added the durable nylon reinforcement that does wind blocking, sheds water, and protects in all of kind of the abrasion areas for your backpack straps, your elbows, over your shoulders, and then added to the insulation behind it. So that was, we wanted something that was much lighter weight that provided more warmth, and that was really the solution we came up with for that full zip merino direction.
Robbie asks, we need a tougher obsidian. They breathe fine, but I keep tearing them up.
Well, okay, that's where you kind of have to. The battle with the obsidian is how do we build a pant that is literally silent? And it's funny. The obsidian over the years has been, the canab to the obsidian. That pant, even though there's been basically 3 or 4, different names, we evolve it literally slightly every year to try to make it more and more durable, more stretchy. But it's a tough thing to get a pant that's truly silent. You can get a quiet pant, but to get a pant that's truly silent and durable, that represents the furthest evolution in any pant I've ever seen as far as that goes. Like with the Obsidians, that's the number one goal. Like we need a pant that is silent. Number two, it can't get burrs, where you can make stuff, and number three is durability. So, if we were to add a face fabric to the Obsidian, I think it would get loud.
But to Kenton's point, we have evolved that product platform really every year to address all of the concerns that everybody talks about. And where it's always excelled was the temperature control, the moisture kind of management, and then being completely silent and odor free. So that was where we had to make sure that none of that stuff was compromised. But coming into the Obsidian, we actually went from really I think it was like a 100% merino ripstop before in the Kanab and the Kanab 2, and now the Obsidian has the nylon, poly, and spandex blended into it to maintain all those things we just talked about, like the temperature control and the quiet and all that, but build in a lot better durability to the fabric itself. And then on top of that, we've, when we re-engineered from the Kanab 2 to the Obsidian, we re-engineered the fit entirely so that you weren't putting stress points on those areas where if you're stepping over fence or whatever, you're just blowing out the crotches. Like it has a much better fit that basically is a complement to the fabric, and those two work together to add that durability. And then we've obviously added reinforcements, through the scuff pads at the lower leg, through the gusset in the bottom, through the back yoke. So you get kind of, added durability that way. So
and and it's got to be thin. I mean, it's got to be able to. You got to be able to wear it in warm temperatures. So it's a push and it's people.
It's a push and pull, full on. Like we have to again kind of like decide on what are the driving performance features. How are they truly prioritized? And we already have these 4 at the top where it's like, man, if it gets loud, then we failed. If it starts to stink, we failed. If it can't manage the body temperature and moisture and everything like merino should, we failed. So we have to like keep those up there and see if we can bump the other ones up with it. But it's always truly like a push and pull to try and optimize any product really.
Right, and you cannot make everybody happy.
And I think to that end, like we were talking about this before we started this, was we have different styles of pants that address those different performance features in a different order, essentially. So it's like, well, if you're in Arizona or Texas, like you need durability. Like here's the pants. If you're mountain hunting and you're back in the bush for a week and a half, like you want the odor control and the quiet. Or you're whitetail hunting, quiet, like super quiet. Like here's all of these different pant options that you can dial in for your specific use case.
Right. All right, last question, then we'll go. Can you and will you make a heavier arrow wool?
Oh,
interesting. What we have found is that at the 200 weight, it's about as thick as the arrow wool really works well. So my point is that if you're not warm enough, you're better off wearing the 200 next to skin and then regular wool over it or whatever over it. But after 200 weight next to skin, the arrow wool starts to lose its efficiency and the ability to pull moisture or vapor.
And you have less of a need, I think, for what the arrow wool does at those weights.
Right.
Because one of the things that the arrow wool does is at those lighter weights, by adding that 37.5 nylon, is you add durability to garments where typically wool down at 150, 170, 200 becomes a little more fragile. Mm-hmm. You add that 37.5 nylon and you have durability down there. Up at 250, 300, 350, you have durability because you have, a higher micron, just heavier weight fabric where it can be constructed more durably. Mm-hmm. Down at those lighter weights, you add the arrow wool, it adds durability, and then it's also, doing a lot for temperature control at those lighter weights where typically you're either having it next to skin as a base layer or you're using it as a solo piece in hot weather. And that's where like the temperature regulating capabilities of the 37.5 really shine. Up in the 250, 300, 350, the merino does that and it does it durably, so you don't necessarily need to add the arrow wool in there. At least that's been our operating premise to this point.
Right. Robbie says he's deliriously happy.